everyone, my name is Jeremy, and in today's video I will be showing you how to use Microsoft Power Automate in order to create a business approval process in Microsoft Teams using data from an outside business application. In the example I'll be demonstrating, a business case approval form will be filled out in HighGear. An adaptive card will be sent to the manager of the form submitter in Microsoft Teams, where they will be able to approve or decline the request. When the manager submits their approval decision, the approval form in HighGear will be automatically updated to reflect that decision. We're now in Power Automate looking at the automation that completes the process I just described. I'll explain each of these steps individually, and then after that I will run an example so you can see the process taking place step by step. The first step of this process will be different depending on the business application you're planning to integrate with Microsoft Teams. Since we're using HighGear, when a business request reaches a web request node in its workflow, a web request will be made to Power Automate, which triggers this automation. The second step of this automation involves retrieving information from the business approval submitted in HighGear. This needs to be done because information that is dynamically pulled from the business approval will be inserted into the following steps that will occur in this automation. If you're using a different business application to complete this process, you'll want to make sure that a step that completes this action is added in your process as well. Steps 3 and 4 of this automation send messages to the individual responsible for making the business approval decision. In the recipient and message fields, you can see that we're using the approval email and initiated by name fields from HighGear to populate those areas. This dynamic content was retrieved from step 2 of the automation. In step 4, an adaptive card is sent to the approver to make the approval decision. The adaptive card uses dynamic information from HighGear, such as the description of the business case, its purpose, and risks, in order to give the approver a brief overview of the request. In step 5, we'll be using a condition with 2 possible sets of actions that can take place depending on the business case approval response. The dynamic field being referenced in the condition is the approval decision from the adaptive card. This step won't take place until the approver submits their response in Microsoft Teams. When an approval decision is made, notifications and messages are sent to the requester on Microsoft Teams, letting them know that their request was approved or declined. The final part of this step involves updating the HighGear task that is associated with the business case to reflect the approval decision made in Microsoft Teams. The HighGear Task ID dynamic field that was retrieved in the first step of the automation is used to identify which tasks should be updated in HighGear. The HighGear task is then updated, which completes this automation. We're back in HighGear now, where I've filled out an approval request form. I'm going to submit this, and then we'll be able to see what everything looks like as the automation takes place step by step. Now that the business case approval form has been submitted, we can see that the first 3 steps of the automation have taken place, and that Power Automate is waiting for the business case approval response. In the first step, the only outputs that are retrieved are the HighGear task ID of the form that was submitted, as well as the HighGear ID of the user who submitted the form. In step 2, the outputs include all of the information that was submitted in the business case approval form from HighGear. As mentioned earlier, most of the dynamic content that is used throughout the next steps in the automation were retrieved in this step. Looking into step 3, we're able to see the message that was posted in Microsoft Teams, the email of the recipient, and other information such as the link to the message. We're now looking at Microsoft Teams as the business case approver in this example. Here, you can see the adaptive card that was posted in the channel. I'm going to approve this request, and then we can go back into Power Automate to see what takes place in the following steps. Looking back at the automation, the output of step 4 recorded the approval decision as approved. In the condition that takes place in step 5, the expression result was true, meaning that the decision was marked as approved. If the decision were to be not approved, the expression result would be marked as false. Following this, you'll notice the checks next to the actions on the left side column and the X's on the right. This means that the automation successfully completed the steps on the left side and did not initiate the steps on the right. The two Microsoft Teams actions that take place in Step 5 send a notification and message to the requester in Microsoft Teams, letting them know of the approval decision of their business case. Next, we'll go over to the Microsoft Teams account of the requester to view what was sent to them in these steps. Now we're looking at the Microsoft Teams account of Bob Smith, our requester in the example. We can see that Power Automate sent him a message letting him know that the business case was approved. Returning to look at the final part of our automation here, where the final action that takes place is updating the HighGear task status to approved in this situation. As you can see here, the task input is looking for HighGear task 2924, and the status is being changed to approved. And in the output, of course, you can see that the task was modified. We're now going to go over to HighGear, and you'll be able to see what this task looks like after this step took place. Lastly, we're back looking at the original business case approval form that was filled out in the beginning of the video. You can see that the approver, approval decision, and decision date were all automatically populated as a result of the business case being approved in Microsoft Teams. That brings us to the end of this tutorial. I hope you were able to find use in this video. Thank you.